This film will investigate how far women on the home front helped the war effort of the great powers involved in World War One. With so many men fighting at the front, this left the voids in the industry and agriculture of Britain, France, and Germany that needed to be filled. This is where the women stepped in. The lack of farm workers, the women of Britain formed the Women's Farm Labour Force, in which they worked in the fields and had about 230,000 members in 1918. This particular movement was met by great skepticism at first, by the farmers who felt that the women could not handle physically demanding agricultural jobs. Women became everything from bus conductors to shipyard workers, and by 1917 over 1 million women became munitionettes, working in munitions factories. However, while working in the factories, they enjoyed bad working conditions, and people often believed they were paid too much. This caused quite a lot of resentment amongst the general public. Trade unionists believed that they were a threat, and that these unskilled women diluted a strong, skilled male workforce. About 100 women were killed through explosions or TNT poisoning, and many more suffered as a result of working in these factories. Their teeth fell out and their skin turned yellow. They were called canaries. As a result of all this physical labour, women became more masculine and cut their hair shorter, wore more simple clothes, and smoked cigarettes. The total output of the national factories was 200,000 shells in 1915, and in 1916 it was nearly 7 million shells. The women of Germany were in a similar situation to their counterparts in Britain. By the end of World War I, 700,000 women were working in industrial jobs, mostly manufacturing arms for the military. In the Russian Empire, Maria Bokhareva established a women's death battalion designed for the women who want to fight in the war, but they received little action at the front. By 1917 they had about 200 members. In America, the total war mentality of Europe was inexistent. Therefore, the women did not want to flock to munitions factories or mass agricultural movements. The war marked a social revolution in which they proved that they could work and do the jobs that were traditionally associated with men. Some women joined the infamous White Feather movement, in which they were encouraged to make men who had not joined the army seem like cowards in a bid to make them enlist. Women made enlisted men seem like cowards and used an array of tactics to essentially pressure them into joining the army. This was a very effective way of making men join the army and help supply the army with new recruits. However, the women could be considered victims as they lost friends and families on the front. December 1914, Hartlepool was shelled by German cruisers in a surprise attack. This was the first time British civilians were targeted in an overseas war. In total, 230 were killed, and many were left homeless. This is something that was not present in the United States, even when they joined the war, as it was not possible for Germany to assault the US directly. By the end of the war, about 50,000 women died in Britain, while only 300 were killed in the United States, while about 200,000 German women were killed, and a staggering 800,000 Russian women died. In Britain and Germany, women helped hold together the communities in the face of adversity. In Britain, Zeppelins bombed the towns. The women and children had to flee and hide in small cellars. The aim of the Zeppelins were to kill British civilians to break the morale of the nation. The Zeppelins were dubbed baby killers. The women were under a great amount of strain as they had to raise children by themselves, work long, hard shifts, and had to be in constant fear of receiving telegrams to tell them the death of a loved one. In conclusion, women contributed a huge amount during World War I because they filled all the gaps left by men and proved they were just as capable. In Britain and Germany, women were given the right to vote in 1918, partly due to the stronger suffrage movement. In France, however, women were not given the vote until 1945. The role of women in society changed, and many were no longer solely viewed as housewives and mothers. However, many did return to the family life as the men from the front returned home. The ones that rejected this were referred to as flappers, who broke all taboos and were a symbol of decadent 1920s that followed soon after the war.